Right, how are we doing everybody, and welcome to Russell Heritage Golf. Today, again, we're talking about our journey in towards this impact area. Now, we've worked very hard, and I'm going to quickly summarise on what we've been doing and the importance of it, right? We've talked very much about the backswing. We've talked about the idea of turning the hips in towards the trail leg. We've talked about the reasons why. We're trying to find a pressure way of putting pressure underneath the ground so that basically it stops this leg from moving as we start to initiate the downswing. In a recent video then, what I started to say is that what you'd be consciously trying to do is you're consciously trying to keep your lead arm up in the air as you start to open up your hips as you start to initiate the downswing. And what this basically means is that because of the rotation of my hips, you can see the way it has a knock-on effect to my spine and the way that the lead shoulder starts to make its way back across over that lead ankle position, which basically means you're in a very good position where you're going to be able to control the low point. What would also happen from a side-on perspective is that you've managed to open up the body. So by the time, again, you're at lead arm horizontal, you've got space now to swing your arms through, which is pivotal for your ability to keep the club on plane. What we're now starting to talk about is how we'd hit the ball. So what has to happen for every golfer is that to hit the golf ball, you have to time the correct amount of down cocking and the correct amount of lead arm rotation to get the club face square. Now, this will change for every golfer. Some golfers will come on a more vertical plane, so you'll feel like you have to down cock more. Some golfers will feel like they swing more traditionally on plane, so potentially you can hold on to wrist cock for a little longer. Some golfers will have a stronger grip, so you won't have to focus as much on the lead arm rotation, more the down cocking element to it. Some golfers will have a weaker grip, so on and so forth. As long as you're on plane, which basically means as long as the shaft is pointing down towards the ball to target line, then you're going to be absolutely fine. And there are exercises which I'll continue to put onto the channel of ways that you can rehearse to make sure you're in the correct position. But what we're doing today is we're going to use the GForce training aid. Now, there's a lot of training aids which do the same thing. Bendy shaft, right? And it helps you get the feeling for that sort of down cocking move because it helps you feel that sort of kick in the shaft so that you can create that tremendous amount of club head speed. And don't forget, the idea of down cocking is it is your club head speed. The question is, when should it happen? And the answer is, it's very difficult to give you a definitive reason as to when you think you should introduce a down cocking. It would depend on things like your separation. It would depend on the transition and the plane. Do you know what I mean? So it's different for every golfer. It depends on how fast you're swinging. But what we're talking about today is that this is a great training aid to go and hit balls with because it will give you a great sense of feedback because obviously you'll know if you're not down cocking or rotating correctly because the ball won't go in the direction where you want it to. So what happens is that we swing up towards the top and we start to open the lower body, and as I said earlier, you want to hold on to these angles here. By the time you get to lead arm horizontal, now the hips are out of the way, this is when you'd want to feel like you're allowing the club to down cock. So by the time you get to impact, the shaft and the lead arm are in a straight relationship towards each other. That's where we're trying to get to. The thing that I think puts fear into golfers is the idea that, okay, well, I look a little bit this way, so I'll try and hit it that way. But golf isn't like that, right? We basically have a double pendulum and we have to lose these angles to be able to hit the ball. So you can't go with the idea of driving it this way because it's not effectively what golf is. It's more of a swinging action than necessarily just a hitting action. So I think what I'm saying is that the reason why you would look flicky or not so desirable at impact, or you don't have such a desirable ball flight, isn't going to be rectified necessarily with what you directly do with the wrists, although it's a subject that we'll come back to. It's going to be due to that transition. So if you saturate the space as you start the downswing or create an early hip extension, you're not going to look as desirable at impact. So what you would do, and we'll talk about other exercises, but it's a possibility that these are a good training aid that you can take down a driving range. And if you're interested in these, there is a link in the description box below which will take you through to the website. What I'm saying is that you would swing up, you would open up, and now you need to feel like as you continue to turn, you need to allow the club to down cock. The benefit of these is that you can feel the kicking point. And that's what is your club head speed. And I think the misconception is people feel like, well, if I do that, I'm going to look flicky, but you won't because you keep turning and this will end up being nice and straight. So they're a great training aid. You can get access to that. They do a sandwich, they do a 7-iron, they now do a driver. Now, as we're mainly focusing on the full swing, this is where you'd start to kind of practice with just the 7-iron and go down the range, and you would start to feel that shaft kicking in as you start to get to that left arm horizontal. And although it will feel whippy, because you'll keep moving your body through, it will still be nice and solid at the point of impact. And like I said, maybe the irons aren't necessarily your problem. Maybe you're struggling to time with the driver, right? Again, it's a great training aid. It's something that you can take down the driving range. And let's say you've got the wrong idea. So let's say you're somebody who's trying to hold on to wrist cock as you start to open up too long relative to your plane and you end up swinging over the top. Or let's say you're somebody who's been using a similar gadget to this and you're really working hard on shallowing the club out, bringing it down on plane, but you're not getting the club face square. Well, this is why this training aid would be, worth your weight in gold, because if you can hit these, then you're going to have absolutely no problem hitting your own golf clubs. So they'll give you tremendous feedback in terms of the quality of the club is there. But also it will give you tremendous feedback because you'll really feel the club shaft kicking in roughly at about left arm horizontal. And as long as you keep moving through, you're still going to be nice and solid at impact. Now, as I alluded to, we will talk about other exercises, right? Other exercises, but the reason why this one is so good is because obviously it's a training aid where you can actually hit balls, and it's going to be something that's going to be really difficult for golfers to be able to replicate. So that's what we're going to start working on. You're up to the top, you're opening the hips. This is when you need to start feeling like you're down cocking to be able to get the club moving through at club head speed. And you need to, if you're a golfer who's trying to hit the ball in an opposite way, then you just need to realign what it is that you're trying to do. It's absolutely acceptable to allow the club to down cock, and it has to happen based on your ability to look this way at impact. What we're going to talk about moving forward is we're going to talk about the differences in wrist angles. So why do some pros look more this way than this way? But it's important to understand that they are all down cocking the club, because that's how you get your club head speed. So, like I said, if you're interested, it's in the description box below. We'll talk about other exercises and drills as well. Hopefully you enjoy the video. Always appreciate a thumbs up and a like. And remember, it's free to press that subscribe button. If you're going to press the subscribe button, then you might as well press the little bell icon, because that means you'll receive notifications every time a new video comes out. Absolutely free to send swings into the channel as well. Social media links are in that description box below. That's where you can send videos in. I'll annotate over them. Yeah, I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can on those, but I'll definitely help every golfer out. And all I do is a 45-second annotation, just pushing you in the right direction as to what you're doing wrong and potentially which videos are best for you. But don't be afraid of down cocking. Don't be afraid if you haven't got access to one of these, trying to experiment with the feeling that you're down cocking earlier. It doesn't mean that you're going to end up looking this way at impact. The reason why you'll look this way at impact is because you're not moving and you're not rotating, which means that you're getting the backswing and the transition area wrong. Catch up with you again soon.